Hey, good morning, everybody. Got my buddy Ron Philbeck here from what part of North Carolina?
Shelby, North Carolina. It's about 50 miles west of Charlotte, so it's kind of south. It's not in the mountains; we're in the foothills.
Very cool. I'll be down there and teaching a workshop in April in Wilmington.
Oh yeah, East Coast. Yep,
Yep.
out on the coast. Yeah,
I really enjoyed North Carolina. What a cool state.
yeah. I'm from here. I grew up here, and it's a good place to be, especially if you're a potter, for sure. Lots of clay history in this state.
Yeah, yeah. Well, geez, Asheville. Who knew? I didn't know that till a couple years ago. That was like a pottery mecca.
Yeah, Asheville's got a big artist community and clay community, and then a lot of historical pots were made in the Catawba Valley region, Lincoln County, Catawba County, which is about 20 miles from here, 20 or 30 miles from here. There's a lot. There were groundhog style kilns, really low to the ground, wood fired, alkaline glazed, local clay. So, those were pots that were, they made butter churns, they made jugs, lots of utilitarian ware
Is
back
that where
in
those
the
big
day.
kind of bottles came from that are really collectible? They got the numbers on the side, like it says 12.
Yep. Daniel Siegel is a well-known potter from Lincoln County. And then there's the Seagrove area, which is a little
Yeah.
farther east in the Piedmont, and, Randolph and Montgomery County, there's a hundred potters in those two counties probably, maybe more.
Absolutely. So when I met you at Ensika, I met you and Phil at the same time. That was funny. I was like, "Yeah, I love your pots," and you're like, "Hey, I love your pots."
Yeah, that was so cool.
But I was with Wei Sun. You know Wei Sun, right?
Yeah, that's right.
He's such a wonderful guy, isn't he?
Yeah. It's a great community around here. Everybody is really giving, and I got a lot of help just right off the bat.
Dude, we talked about that on a podcast with somebody the other day. I mean, I went to Alfred, but I went to Alfred for theater.
Yeah.
And I found ceramics and fell in love with it right away, because how do you not, right?
Yep.
And I didn't want to go back to school again. So I was friends with all these amazing professors that were superstars that I didn't really know. Like I was telling someone the other day, Val Cushing he's my buddy's dad, or was.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
He was like a god in clay. I just knew him as my buddy's dad. And
That's wild. Yeah.
so I learned by just asking, and potters are so giving. I thought my one friend was going to hate me because I'd show up twice a week going, "Hey, can you tell me more about how I mix this glaze?" And, you know,
Yeah. When
I like to say I learned by doing it wrong.
yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much same way. I mean, I didn't do clay in college, and I just learned from different people along the way. I had a bunch of different teachers.
Where did you start clay? Were you a high school clay guy? Did you have
No, I was 20. I had been in college for 4 years, and I came home and I took a clay class with a friend of mine who had been an art education major, and she had made pots in college, done some kind of, a foundations course or something.
Yeah.
So she and I took a class at a community college, and I had always done some drawing and painting and built things, since my high school days and all along the way as a kid, but had never done any clay. So, I was in my early 20s the first time I threw a pot. And it was at a terrible, we had our instructor was just like, "Here you go, have at it."
Yeah. Good luck. Figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I learned to throw using a guy named Wayne Higby's porcelain scraps.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, like a friend of mine was one of his studio assistants, and he was making these bricks to do an installation in an airport in China.
Oh man.
They were kind of like 3D cut bricks.
Yeah.
So he would run them through the CNC. He would make big bricks and run them through a CNC machine, and it would cut the surfaces. And all the scraps that went flying, they would scoop up off the floor and put them in these big bins.
Yeah.
He must have had 30 of them. And to me, it was free clay. I said, "I'll take all that," and
Heck yeah.
I stacked it in the corner of my kiln. Little did I know, as a new potter, that his clay was made for making tile
Oh,
and not really to be thrown with.
wrong. Yeah.
So I was like, I suck on the wheel. Yeah.
We kind of had the same experience too, my friend and I, because our teacher in that class was really it was at the community college, and it was really a class for people who were in there, these older retired ladies who were in there slip casting baby dolls, these little
Oh yeah.
porcelain dolls. So
Yep.
basically there were two potter's wheels in there, and we just sat down and were handed a bag of clay, and who knows how long this clay had been sitting there, and it was kind of like really stiff, and you're kind of trying to center this really stiff clay, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, we'll never be able to do this.
Yeah.
And
Why do
who
I
knew?
suck at this?
Yeah, why do I suck? Because this clay is like twice as stiff as it should be I
Yeah.
tell all if I'm teaching, it's like soften your clay up. That will just make things so much easier to the kids.
Yeah, my buddy Sean, he's the kiln building professor at Alfred, and he makes just massive things.
Yeah,
Like a 500 pound. He calls it a charger. It's just a big plate. You
yeah,
know, what I mean? It's
yeah.
literally 4 feet wide. He had to. I saw him make one, and he had to fabricate uh, um, something on a forklift to flip it over to trim it because it was
Right.
so heavy he couldn't flip it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But he takes his clay and he
Mhm.
takes his wire and he cuts it into it's just slabs it out and puts it in a bucket of water for a few minutes and then puts it back in the bag.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got all kind of little tricks like that. I've done all those things people say to do. Wrap it in a towel, all those things. I've one of the first things I did though when I started making pots, within a couple years, I bought a pug mill. My
Yeah.
my mentor was is a production potter, primarily from Seagrove, North Carolina. His name's Tom Gray,
Uh-huh.
and Tom said, as soon as you can, buy a
Get a
pug mill,
plug mill.
and that was one of the best investments I've ever
That's too
had.
funny you say that. I was looking at one last night online.
Hmm. I
It
mean,
was 1,800 bucks.
yeah, and you'll never
That's a good
regret
deal.
spending that money. I mean, I had a Bluebird to start, and I had it Bluebird 440, and I had that thing. I mean, it was still running, but then somebody gave me another pug mill that was bigger, and so I passed my Bluebird on to somebody else, and now I've got
Nice.
a Peter Plugger. But anyway, anything is just it'll save your wrists.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can like do your reclaim. It is just I tell everybody, if you're going to
I
make pots, you need to just go ahead and get you a pug mill. Yeah.
get a pug mill. The one I looked at yesterday, 1,800 bucks is a really good deal because I've seen them go for $6,000, 7,000.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But this is like one of those industrial ones.
Hmm.
I think it's like it's huge,
That's
but
the thing for sure. Space. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure I can find space for it. I used to have an old video. Speaking of Val Cushing again, I had an old video of him throwing a DVD back in the day.
Huh.
I used to watch relentlessly. And he said one time, somebody asked me one time if you have to have strength to throw. And
Right.
I used to say no. He goes,
Right.
then I got older.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
try to teach people to just lay on it.
Yeah. Lean on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty. I mean, I felt like you had to have strength for a long time, and then I don't know. I've seen some small people make some incredibly
Yep.
big or just challenging pots. There's
Yeah.
some um, Kate Waltman who is here in
Yes.
Seagrove and from North Carolina. And there's another lady who's probably not as well known. Her name's Donna Craven.
Hmm.
Those two women can just make the most beautiful,
Yeah.
large, any form. I mean, amazing, and it's just technique, and they know how to take care of their bodies. And, it's not like this masculine thing. I saw Don Wright's back in the day,
Yeah.
pots, and I mean, that was like, he had guns, man, I mean, his muscles, I mean, he was just
Yeah.
like you said, leaning into it, and, but, Kate could have sat down right beside him and done the same thing in a completely different way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a little Kate Waltman jar actually,
Mm. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and it's just as intricately carved as one of her giant pots. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, yeah, that's true too.
And I got it for like $50. It's like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
I'm holding on to that one.
yeah. She's a rock star. She's a good potter, for sure.
Yeah. Who's the guy down there that does? He does a huge firing once a year, and then he lines his driveway with giant pots.
Right. That's probably Mark Hewitt.
Mark Hugh,
Maybe.
and they're like 4 foot pots, and they sell out in like an hour.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, Yeah, this is probably Mark. There's a couple potters. David Stempley's another potter who makes really big jars and has a big kiln and fires maybe just a couple or three times a year. But Hewitt's been here probably since the '80s.
Hmm.
He's English, but he studied in different places. He studied with Cardew, and then
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Todd Piker and other people. So he got set up. He's in the Piedmont. He's near Chapel Hill, right
very
outside
cool.
of Chapel Hill, UNC area. But yeah, makes these
Yeah,
amazing
my
pots.
buddy Marshall, actually, he was episode one. He's a big pot thrower.
Uh-huh.
He's just him and this other kid Josh that I always show everyone this pot. They're just to me. I've seen a lot of people throw, and they just have it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They're just at one with clay. you know,
I know. Yeah,
I don't wedge either. Like I'll wedge on the wheel
yeah.
and I'll throw out bubbles.
Right. Yeah.
Like
There you go.
yeah, pop them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Um, but what was I going to say? Yeah, so Marshall's always like, "Hey, I'll make this platter," and he's like, "Hey, man, make a bigger one." And I'm like, "I don't want to make a bigger one." I said, "Well, two reasons. One, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Two, if I make a 3 foot pot and nobody's like ordered it, it's gonna
Yeah.
sit in the corner of my studio for 3 years, and it's a lot of clay. It's a lot of work. If somebody wants me to make a 4 foot pot, sure, I'll make one for you, but I'm not gonna make it for no reason."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a big pot maker. I mean, all of my teachers and my influences were potters who made domestic pots,
Hmm.
domestic ware, pots for the kitchen. So
Yeah,
that was kind of where I came from. But being here, and like I mentioned earlier, those folks in the Catawba Valley and Lincoln County, they were making big jars. It was like, oh, here's a 7 gallon jar, here's a 12, and then
yeah.
out, in other places. And so you see those things, and you're like, man, I really want to make those things.
Hmm.
And then, it's just
Yeah,
a whole another thing to scale up from a 4 or 6 pound pot to a whatever pound pot.
yeah.
So I
I
don't know.
do.
I've kind of came to terms with, this is this is sort of my range.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
now and then I'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
excited and try to do something else.
I'm kind of at that place too. I'm pretty lucky to be able to not have to do this. I mean, like I want to do it for a living, but I don't have to do it for a living just now. I think I need to build up a bigger following before I can kind of make that jump.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, that's a pretty terrifying thing to think about.
Yeah. I mean, when I started, I didn't have, I mean, I had a job. I kept my day job for a few years,
Yeah.
just because I didn't know I wanted to be a potter. I just started making pots. And then, after 4 or 5 years, it was like, oh, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. And, I eventually just quit. But I didn't have a following. It was just like I was just making a lot of pots.
Yeah.
And around here, the way it was you had a local customer base, and you'd invite people out on a weekend to buy pots. And so,
Mhm.
I wasn't really interested in going to shows and stuff like that. And so, I had a little. It was pre-email, so this was like early '90s, mid '90s. So, I'd go to the hardware store and Xerox off a flyer, with the dates and the time, and I'd set up a couple tables in my dad's front yard, and have a little pottery sale.
That's awesome. The
And
old way, the old back in the day way.
yeah, yeah. But and it was just kind of like that for years. I just sort of kept on doing that and building a mailing list, and I would have 4 sales a year, and then eventually I would do a craft show or get one or two little things outside of this area, and it's just fast forward 30 years, and now almost everything I sell is online, and I do a few
Yep.
shows, but, primarily I sell online. So it's really changed. My local market's pretty much flooded with pots, everybody around here's got all the Ron Philbeck pottery they want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, before I move on, I was going to say, like, that's one thing I think newer potters or anybody should really know. And it took me a while, is just keep making.
Yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know,
what I
like,
tell people. You have to
there's
just
going to be a
make pots.
phase where you're like, why am I doing this? This is a total waste of time. My pots are heavy. They suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
there's a
I
lot of
still
my
think
old pots
pots are
still
good.
around here.
Say that again?
there's a lot of my old pots still around here in boxes in the barn, and in places. And, I come across those things and I'm like, man,
Yeah, my mom has shelves full, and every time I go over there, I say, "Just throw those away. I'll give you new ones."
I know. Yeah, my mom has a lot of pots too. It's kind of fun to see them.
Yeah, no, I love those. Oh, it's
Yeah.
terrible.
But
But
yeah,
that's what we were going to touch on. You and
oh
I
yeah,
had touched about that before we started recording here about like not remaining kind of stagnant and experimenting.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew, well, early on, I was just like anybody else and just sort of learning to make a pot, to get the clay up and the
Yeah.
off the wheel,
Yep.
And then I feel like early on, I kind of found some pots that I liked that I knew, oh, okay, these are the pots that I really want to try to make.
Mm-hmm.
And, so for years, I kind of had some direction. And then once I've, once maybe after 10 or 12 years, and you kind of do something, then it was, I thought, well, I'm going to have a little holiday and I'm going to try some of this other stuff for a couple months or a month. Well,
Yeah.
that turned into like an 8-year hiatus of like a whole
Yeah.
nother body of work, and maybe 2 years of this style and so it was like an 8-year hiatus split up into like four bodies of work. And then eventually I came all the way back around to where I had begun, so I've got pots that are salt glazed pots. I've got cone 3 pots. I've got earthenware pots. I've got
Oh, wow.
reduction Timaku Shino pots.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but the pots that I fell in love with were salt glazed stoneware, and so that is pretty much where I still am now, back.
So it's pretty interesting from a guy such as yourself that's kind of pretty established, and you have kind of a following, and you have a decoration that's recognizable. Like, you can see one of your pots across the room and go, "Oh, that's a Ron Philbeck pot,"
Yeah,
just from the color and the decoration.
yeah.
But to hear you talk about trying other things, I mean, that means a lot to people. I think that look, here's a guy who's pretty established, and he's still experimenting.
Yeah. And a lot of, but you can recognize my pots now, but I feel like that has only happened in the last maybe 5 or 7 years. I mean, up until that, for a long time, I was just making like plain brown pots. Yeah. I mean, they were
Yeah.
somewhat recognizable in the form maybe, but they weren't. You couldn't pick them out from across the room like you can now. And
Yeah.
so it took me a long time to really, it wasn't like I had that established within like 5 or 7 or even 10 years. It took me,
Yeah.
I
So
would, I
again,
would, it took me a long time to land, to really honestly to have the courage to just say, this is this is what I'm going to do. Yeah,
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 and kind of finding your voice. So back again to like just keep making.
yeah,
I think in clay, maybe, and maybe in other mediums and arts, if you just, I think the better you get at your craft, your voice will define itself.
yeah, yeah. I think for me, I kept really paying attention to the things that I liked and that I disliked. I would try things and I'd be like, man, I cannot work on this pot for 3 days. I'm not, I want to make the pot and get it off the wheel and it pretty much be done.
Yeah.
I'm a thrower. I'm not, I don't like to I just can't spend a lot of time on stuff. I mean, I do spend a lot of time on my decoration now, but as far as throwing the pots or putting the pots together and all that, and then the same with like the surfaces and the decoration. It was like, okay, I really like what this person's doing, or I like these drawings, or I'm influenced by this. And I'd kind of lean into that, and I would try it for a little while, and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I do like this. And then some things I'd be like, uh-oh, no.
Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, you take things from
Yeah.
all these different places and you mash them together and you come up with or I did. That's how I figured it out. I didn't have like this epiphany of this is who I am as a potter, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So,
just took I have a shelf unit right here, and as a potter, shelf units in the studio are priceless, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I had like pots stacked there that didn't sell for a couple of sales. I had them as seconds and priced really low, and just as soon as the golf season was over, I taught a workshop at Aramont, and I came home and I'm like, let's hit the ground running and make pots this year. And first thing I did was took a garbage can and threw all that stuff away.
I do that. I do that frequently. And what I
Yeah,
usually do is I pull the tractor up to the back door
smash them.
with the bucket on the front of the tractor and smash them, and then take them down to the gully and dump them in the gully. So I've got a huge shard pile.
So what you're saying is I need a tractor. That's what I
You
took.
need a tractor. There you go.
see, see, honey, I told you I need a tractor.
That's right. That's right. It doesn't have to be a big tractor. It can just, just.
Yeah, just something with a bucket.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, and my wife was like, "What are you throwing away stuff for?" I'm like, "It's stuff that I don't want my name on."
I know. And, I heard somebody say recently, if you've got that stuff kind of sitting around, you're just thinking about it, and it's kind of giving you like this energy that doesn't feel great. It's like, what am I going to do with these? Oh, am I going to, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I just got to get that out of here so I can like have a clear
Or
mind.
even just looking at them, it just reminds you how much I suck.
Right.
You're not there yet.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
That's too
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh, so speaking of like again finding your voice and messing around, I got a kiln in there right now, and I'm force drying some mugs on top of it. That always turns out great.
Yeah. Yeah.
668 degrees, and I kind of can't wait to see what's in there. Did you see any of the posts I put up of the flowered pots I've been doing?
Oh, I don't know if I've seen those. I mean, I've seen a couple with the flowers, but I don't know if I saw the recent ones.
Yeah, I've always kind of done flowers.
Yeah. Yeah.
People like flowers. I don't know, and I like painting them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a terracige guy, I like a lot of decoration on the outside of pots.
Right.
I want to cover the surface. But do you remember Matt Shyman?
Oh, yeah.
Right? He's making guitars now.
Yeah, I did see where you had like made some pots that were really like had a ton of deco on them. Yeah.
Yes, that whole kiln is full of them right now.
Oh,
And
is it? Cool.
I don't know. They might suck. I might pull them out and go, "This is what a waste of a week."
Yeah, I don't know. I bet they'll be all right. That's
I don't know.
cool.
I thought they were pretty cool. One of them I'm gonna post it later. I call it an ode to Matt Shyman
Nice. Yeah.
because it's literally I just went down. I had this pot sitting there, and when you make a piece and you're afraid to kind of jump in and decorate it because you like the piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to ruin it
No. Yeah.
with my crappy decoration. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I wanted to experiment with that kind of floral stuff.
Yeah.
So I did it just like one of his. So I'm going to
Yeah.
post it. I'm kind of bummed he doesn't make pots anymore. I love his stuff, or
Yeah.
did
He
love.
made. Yeah. He made nice pots. I had a few of his like older pots that were like kind of crusty. I don't know if they were wood fired, but they had. I think they might have been, but they were real crusty and kind
Yeah,
of brown, nice,
yeah.
heavy.
He's doing pretty well with guitars. I think they're
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah.
Gotta find your thing. So, I love the plates you just posted, though. I like those forms.
Oh yeah, see, that was my little January. That was one of my little January sidetracks. I had these. I was like, okay, I've got a little bit of this red clay left. I'm gonna make some funky shaped plates, and I'll probably put some slip on them and draw on them.
Yeah, love them. Is there a foot ring on the bottom of those?
There's just these little
Feet?
nubby feet. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So
Sweet.
trying to.
I started making these butts a few years ago. I don't know if you've probably seen those.
Sure. Yeah.
So like, there's this one.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's just a foot ring,
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when I make a pot, it comes out like that.
Exactly.
And I don't have to flip it. I don't have to trim it. I don't have to trim through it.
I know.
you know,
I know.
I don't have to mangle the body when I trim it,
Yep. Yep.
or mangle the rim trying to lug it down. I used to just wet the rim with my finger and stick it to the pot and then trim.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes it flies off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm done with this. And for me, it's the exact same size every single time.
That's good too. Yeah, yeah.
You
There
know?
was a guy from Ma- let's see, you're in Rochester?
Yeah.
Trying to think. Richard Arney?
Yeah, Richard Airney. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I saw him do that about
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah, so there's this conference in North Carolina every year. It's in March, and that was really one of the places that I learned so much was from going to this conference every year. And Richard was there one year early on, and he brought a few of those plaster forms.
Yep.
I think his were plaster, yours are bisque, but and he threw these big platters in them. He threw these big planters. Anyway, he made some really cool pots. Yeah.
There's the plaster ones.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
I saw, in my constant strive for information,
Yeah.
trying to be a better potter or trying to just make pots that I like. It wasn't trying to be a better potter. I was trying to make my pots better for myself. You're right. Mark Arnold.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw him do this once, and
Oh,
it was like one of those high speed clips
oh,
on
really?
it. And I was like, oh wait a second, and I remember I said, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what I used to do back in the day was I would throw a mound on the wheel and create the foot,
Uh-huh.
and then put a metal ring around that, and then slip cast it this way,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then take it and then go, and then it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the way I used to do it, and as you can see how good I am at plaster.
I'm saying they're all chipped up.
Oh, I hate them, and like plaster, you can score it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could beat the heck out of this
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So simple. It dries. It sucks moisture out, dries quick.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah, I can just
Yep.
pop plates off and go.
Yep. Yep.
So anyway,
When the
that's
whole
where.
bisque mold thing, I don't know when the bisque mold thing hit the scene, but I had friends who got into that and were just making incredible things with bisque mold. It was cool.
Yeah, I have a whole shelf full of like slump molds over there, and
Yep.
it's, like we were talking again earlier. Never stop trying.
Yeah. No.
Just
You
try
gotta
stuff.
keep trying,
Um,
keep making stuff, keep looking at stuff.
so that slip you use is that a flashing slip or?
Yeah, all that color on those pots are slips, and there's a couple like background slips. There's Bauer orange, which has been around forever,
Yeah, that's what that is.
and then there's a yellow one that has some titanium in it, titanium dioxide. Those are sort of my two primary ones, and then I have just a white slip, and then I've got a white slip that has some cobalt in it that is blue. Turns blue, and then and then I've got some random ones too, but those are my primary ones, and they change color in the soda kiln, and then the black is underglaze. It's
Yeah,
commercial underglaze.
commercial underglaze. I saw you messing with ink.
Yeah, the Amico ink. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing some screen printing and some jelly plate printing. So, I mean, I had started this whole process like 2 or 3 winters ago,
Uh,
and got interested. I'm interested in mono printing and drying the underglaze out so you can screen print it and all that. But man, when they came out with the inks, I was just like, screw that! I'm just going to buy a jar of that ink because it's ready to roll. I mean,
it,
that was
so
smart.
that's just like an underglaze, but it's more printable.
Yeah, it's just denser. It's just like I mean, it's like
Oh, oh yeah, yeah.
it's just like, I think, this is 8 fluid ounces. I think I saw somebody on YouTube. She said, if you took a 16-ounce bottle of underglaze and laid it out and let it air
Yeah, dry.
evaporate, you'd probably end up with like an 8-ounce thick product
Yeah,
that you could print with. And this is just the perfect consistency. So
that's very cool. And that's fireable to whatever cone. What do you go? Cone 10?
I go to 9 or 10. So this black definitely goes to that. I don't know about the other colors. They may not go that
And
high.
you're primarily soda, right? Soda
Right
fire.
now, yep. Right now I'm soda. I had salt glazed for about 12 years, and then I'd had my little earthenware fiasco,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah. So,
and then when I when I came back out of my earthenware thing, I said, okay, I'm just going to do soda. So I rebuilt my kiln, um, my gas kiln, and just went strictly soda. And I've been doing that for several years now. But I'm
Very
getting
cool.
ready to switch back to salt, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to salt and go. I'm going to try to go down to like cone 7 or 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a
'Cause
big switch.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of times in my salt glaze early on, the back of the kiln, it was cooler. It
Mm-hmm.
might have been 8. The front might have been 10. The back might have been 8. And the pots were nice back there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice
Sweet.
color, soft.
I love salt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
did a
good.
salt firing back in Alfred years ago. I would go down in the winter with my friend Sean, and we would do a salt fire in the winter because over Christmas break the kids weren't around.
Right.
The town was virtually empty, and we got it up to he was the master. I don't know. I only did it a couple times, and he filled that angle iron with
Yeah, yeah,
salt.
yeah.
He slides it in the posts, and he
Flip
goes,
it over.
"Psh," and
Yep.
he goes now duck. And this like layer of like
Uh,
mustard gas.
Paper.
Oh my God. And then I look downtown Alfred and there's a cloud going down Main
Yeah,
Street.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like, yeah, we should go.
yeah. Yeah, that's how I like to do the salt on the angle iron. Yeah, I've got
Sweet.
a real tall chimney, and so I don't
You
have
must have some property. You don't have neighbors right next to you?
no. I've got we're surrounded by cornfields and
Very
soybeans and
good. You're
and
not salting out anybody right next
I'm
door.
not bothering anybody. Everybody's
Very
cool. We've
cool.
got some neighbors down the street a bit, but nobody close.
Speaking of tell me about wife, kids, family, cats, dogs.
Yeah, cats, dogs. So I've been married. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary
Oh,
last week.
wow. Congratulations.
So
Wow.
thanks. Yeah, that's a big deal. So married, no children. Got a couple dogs and a cat. We've always had a dog and a cat, at least one.
Hmm.
But yeah, so lived here on this property since 96, 97. And I thought, the man to be a potter. I mean, it was how I saw things happening in Seagrove, because that's rural North Carolina,
Yep.
and that's where I saw pots being made, and it was like, to be a potter, you have to have some land
Yep.
and build a kiln and put yourself down there, and then my other huge inspiration early on was Warren McKenzie.
Sure.
And so I was like, I'm going to be like Warren McKenzie. I'm going to make a lot of pots. I'm going to sell my coffee cups for $9, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be the local potter. And I did that for, 8 or 9 years, and had these sales out in my front yard. But, that's how I thought
Yeah.
you had to do it. And then later on, I mean, years later on, I was, with the internet and stuff, you'd see people and they would have a studio in London, or they would have a studio in their back garden in
Yeah.
Philadelphia or somewhere,
Yeah. 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 In a shed.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
was like, no way, and so anyway, my perspective has changed over the years. I mean, I do love being in the rural part of the county.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I think in a way, I think I wouldn't say atmospheric firing is going to the wayside. I think that's always going to be here. I think
mhm.
more and more people are thinking, wow, I can get almost the same results through a Cone 6 electric kiln.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, over the last.
I have a Shino glaze in a
Yeah,
jar over here. Cone
yeah,
6
yeah,
Shino.
yeah, yeah.
It's like an oxymoron.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things have changed in the last 20 years. For a long time, electric pots were pretty dull, and kind of the same thing. You dip 3 glazes on it and it looks like this.
Mhm.
But, people are really making some interesting pots. I think if you're really dedicated and you experiment and you put yourself out there, you know, you can make a good pot in any situation. I always thought, if you put Hamada on an island with a electric kiln and, a couple bags of clay and a jar,
Yep.
of, something, that man would make a great pot, because
Yeah.
he can just do it,
Yeah.
and
Actually, I remember back in the day, it was very interesting being a potter from the Alfred area that didn't go to Alfred for ceramics.
Right. Yeah.
So people would come to my shows, or I'd be in these the artisan trails, and they'd see my pots, and they'd go, "Did you go to Alfred?" And I go, "Nope." And they go, "Well, geez, your pots are really good." I'm like, "Well, you don't really need to go to school for that."
No. No.
But they would all do this.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, put it down. like,
Yeah,
like,
I mean that's a big part of. I mean that whole weight thing has kind of it kind of haunts us. I mean,
well, Shoji Hamada one time actually, I was reading him say, he said, "I would rather have a pot that's too heavy than too light."
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Bing."
I know. Yeah, and some of the pots the pots that I first got turned on to that I knew were the pots that I wanted to make were made by a couple up in the Penland area. It was Will Ruggles and Douglas Rankin, Rock Creek Pottery, and they threw with real soft clay on momentum wheels, on these little Korean wheels, and their pots were chunky. I mean, they were not light pots by any means. Their pictures were well balanced. But me. I mean, they were stout. But
Yeah.
they were well balanced and they were well made, and they certainly had a lot of Japanese and Korean influence. But then on the other end of the spectrum, like in other parts of North Carolina, I mean, if you were going to make a pot, it better have a thin ass clay wall and just be like you were picking up a balloon,
Yeah.
And so my mindset kind of went, oh, it sucks if it's not light, but look at these pots. These pots are good pots, and they got some weight to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of times, over the years, and I always threw on a momentum wheel and slow, soft clay. And when I got an electric wheel, it was just like stepping on the gas on a Porsche. It was like,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I saw you had a video on Instagram the other day. I actually just wrote that down. You have a leech wheel, right?
yeah, I've got a treadle wheel, leach treadle
Rattle
wheel.
wheel. Is that a leech wheel?
Well, it was made in Minnesota, but it was made. I mean, it's made like the I think they're called Woodleys. Was
It's
who
got
made
like the triangular.
Yeah, the tray, the splash
Yeah.
pad. Yeah,
And the kick on the. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
great wheel.
yeah,
Simon Leach was like my muse when I first
yeah,
started.
yeah,
He was all over YouTube, and I watched
yeah,
everything he did.
yeah,
And then I would sit and throw, and watch a video, and then try that, and then
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
making weird pots. And I remember the day I threw a cylinder, and I leaned back in my chair, and I'm looking at the cylinder on the wheel, and I thought, well, now what?
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm stuck with these three forms: a
Yeah, yeah,
bowl, a cylinder, or a plate.
yeah.
So once I started kind of hand building, which was
Hmm.
4, 5, maybe 6 years ago,
Mhm.
I was like, oh wow, I can make whatever I want.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So you
Do you know
kind
what
of
I mean? If I get a form in my head, I go, oh, how can I make that? Or I'll see something and go, oh, I can make that this way with slabs and coils.
yeah, yeah,
Rather than throwing it, I go, how the hell did he throw that?
yeah, yeah. See, for me, it was just the opposite. I could not. I, I mean, I didn't really try much coil building, but I tried a lot of different things with slabs, and it always just looked really dead when I was finished.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with throwing, I felt like the pots came off the wheel and they still had some life to them,
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it was hard to like hand build a pot that looked like it had some soul, and like the pots that I liked, like the Ruggles and Rankin pots and some of those other folks, those pots, they came off the wheel and even through the firing. I mean, I think it gets even harder as things dry and then get fired for them to look lively or
To
look like
hold on to that soul. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And so it was hard for me. But I mean, I see other people who are, hand builders or coil builders or slab builders, and they can create that volume, they can create maybe some gesture, they've got like all the things that to me like really give me that excitement about the pot, because to me it's about the pot. I just
Yeah.
really want to hone in on on making a good pot. For me, it was all about form for all those years. And I'm not like a great like Tom Coleman, kind of thrower where, it's this beautiful balloon shape or whatever, but like Mackenzie's pots were alive to me. They had gesture to them. Clary Alien's pots had that beautiful curve, but they had some quirkiness to them that was really lively. Um,
I
yeah.
like to leave that quirkiness in there. I just made this big old thing the other day. This
Mm.
big old serving
Oh,
dish.
nice. Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Did you coil that or did you slab build that?
so I coiled it.
The walls. Yeah, nice. Cool. Yeah, yeah.
But I like to leave. I leave those little rib marks and everything in there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, like you can see where it was in the mold. There's a line that kind of and it
Oh.
and I said to my wife was looking at it. I said, I was thinking about putting the coil of clay in there and smoothing it out, but
Mm.
I kind of like it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
kind of gives it a little bit of stance, I
Yeah,
think.
it's got some movement to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like to leave all those maker's marks in there. I want you to know, like I don't really totally smooth out the inside.
Yeah, see, I like all that. And I like that that's made with coils. I think if I tried to do the coil thing, it would probably be satisfying to me to be able to move the clay like that. Kind of like
Yeah,
Sunshine Cobb makes, her pots are a lot of coils
yeah,
and they just have a nice,
a great feel.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, actually, she was another one that I saw do a little video and was like just bing, like
right.
because I was researching her 7 8 years ago because I really liked her matte surfaced looking mugs.
Yeah, that should sandblast.
Yes, the crazy color, but still matte.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, how does she do that? So I went down a rabbit hole trying to figure out. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just got to buy a sandblaster. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be sandblasting.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the midst of doing that, I saw her making a pot and doing her coil scrape method.
Hmm, hmm.
And it was one of those just, when you see it and it goes right to the depths of your brain, I was like, oh, that's it. And then boom, just took off making stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah.
That also led me to Terra Sigillata too, because without sandblasting, how do I get any color I want matte?
Yeah, yeah. Perfect.
Terra
Yeah.
Sig. And I
Yeah.
was telling someone on this the other day that the thing for me about Terra Sig is I know what's coming out of the kiln.
Yeah, that was a big part of my earthenware phase was like the pots when they went into the kiln, it was basically red clay, white slip, and sgraffito.
Yep.
And I mean, they went in the kiln looking like that, and they came out of the kiln looking like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew,
Yeah. It's kind of nice. You can still
it was
sleep.
good
You
in a
sleep.
way. Yeah, yeah. There was no surprises like there are in the salt and soda kiln. Yeah,
Yeah. I never liked doing all that work and opening up the kiln and going, ugh,
yeah.
well, shit, that was a waste. Grab the garbage. Grab the tractor.
I heard somebody say one time they were having like all these problems. I can't remember who it was, and they were just like, "Yeah, I'm just going to have the clay company deliver my clay directly to the dump.
Yeah, yeah. Go drop it over there. Yeah. That's too.
Just take it right to the landfill.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's the $1,000."
yeah. How come your shard pile is full of boxes of clay? It's
Yeah,
just easier that way.
just easier, man. Just save myself a lot of heartache.
Oh, that's too funny. Speaking of stuff, I just ordered because of you.
Mm.
I ordered a square extruder die for my wall extruder.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
They're expensive.
yeah.
Did you make one?
I made one. I bought this extruder. I bought this used extruder off a guy not quite a year ago. I don't remember when it was, but anyway, and it had a bunch of like just blank plywood things, and
Yeah.
so I just cut them out, and fabricated them. But yeah. So I mean, that's basically I'm just using that extruder to make those salt and pepper blanks. But
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that just square tube.
yeah,
One for salt and peppers is just the perfect idea.
you could do so much with extrusions. I mean, that's a whole nother thing, like talking about hand building, I mean, like people, like one of my favorite potters is Walter Keeler. And,
Hmm.
and he made salt glaze and he like extruded and hand built and he threw too.
Yep.
But the man could take a 12 12-inch high extruded tube and turn it into this amazing picture form.
Yeah.
It was just so, yeah.
Yeah. My friend Marshall does that. Actually, the guy from episode one there, he throws these, like, it's like the base of a vase, and then he just adds extrusion to the top. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're freaking cool. And you know what he started doing last year was he threw this really cool ring, and then he took a 2x4 and just stuck it into the pot,
Uh-huh.
and then he fired it, and then after it's fired, you put the 2x4 back in there. So it just looks like it fell off a roof and stuck into the pot.
Nice. Right on.
It's really cool. Yeah, I got a wall extruder a couple years ago. I go to a high school and I do this visiting artist throwing thing. You've probably done a few of those in your day. And they're always like, throw a 20-pound piece. And you're like, no.
I'm like, I'm just going to make these little jars.
Yeah. So I asked my friend who's the art teacher, I said, do you have a wall extruder? And she said, yeah, I hate that thing. You can
Oh, I
hack it.
know. Yeah.
She's
A lot
like,
of people
kids
just,
clean
yeah.
it. The kids never clean it. I got to clean it.
Yep.
I don't clean it until I use it.
Yeah, same.
I tap the outside with a hammer and with a
All
bag
the stuff
underneath.
falls off. Yeah. 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 I've gotten good use out of the one I bought. I'm happy I have it. And hopefully I'll use it for some other things. Maybe this summer mine's mounted to a post out in the shed out there, so it's not in the studio. But, so anyway.
Well, I for a couple of years was doing the rolling coils like this and pinching them kind of like Sunshine Cobb. When if you're going to be a hand builder, the least you can use your hands, the better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I got that thing, I'll just lay out a piece of plastic and I'll just pull out 30 or 40 of them.
Yeah.
Just sit here and go boop, 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 boop. And that's one thing I noticed. And I had a girl come over the other day who's a local potter and she wanted to hand build. I said, come on over, let's make some pots. That's what I love. That's why I love doing this show, because it's fun for me to chat with other artists.
This is really cool. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, man. Thanks for being a part. I think it's going to be fun. I was telling Phil yesterday that I was thinking about getting a booth at NCECA next year, just doing like live interviews.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. That's a great
yeah.
idea.
Depends how much a booth is. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Are you going to Detroit, actually?
I want to go to Detroit, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going this year, but I do want to go in 26. Yeah.
Yeah. I might drive out. So if you guys are going to drive out, let me know. I'll meet you halfway.
Yeah, we'll let you know. I think
I think it's a
I'm-
long drive.
Yeah, I definitely want to go up
Especially
there.
for you. You're what? You're probably 12 hours from me?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah. So anyway, she came over and we were building hand build. We hand built and talked for like 5 hours. I'm like, you realize we didn't stop talking for 5 hours?
It's nice to have a little studio visit. My friend Amy Sanders came over, and she's part of our Thrown Together crew.
Yeah.
And there's two Amy Sanders.
I was gonna say, I know the new Amy Sanders making the crazy pictures. I love her pots.
I know, right? I saw her years ago. I forgot it was at. I don't know what NCECA it was at, but I was walking down the hall and there was this, and she had her badge said Amy Sanders. I was like, "Wait, you're not the Amy Sanders I know, but I know somebody else." Anyway, oh yeah, but this is Amy Sanders from Charlotte. Anyway, she came out a couple weeks ago and we hung out in the studio for a little while and played around with this whole silk screen thing. And she's a hand builder and she's a good like mono printer and she knows she's like, well, try it with your finger. Try this. Oh, let's try it like this. And I was like, thank God you're here because I was just going to give up.
Yeah. No, there's nothing like that. I have written down. I said, tell us about Thrown Together Potters. There's a whole group of you guys down there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're like in our 17th or 18th year as a little group. We started out, there was like 5 of us, I think, or I think there was 5 and then 8, kind of like the core group. And now I think it's me, Amy Sanders, Phil, Harlem, who you had on, a guy named Charlie Taft, who's a great potter.
Yeah, I messaged him yesterday. Got to get him on the show.
Yep, Charlie's a good guy. Jen Mecca, Julie Wiggins, and Mike Hamlin. So that's like our core group.
That's great.
And then we invite 2 or 3 guests to do a sale with us twice a year in Charlotte.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And, we had seen the whole thing like the St. Croix pottery tour and the 16 hands tours and things
Yeah.
like that, where you'd have these core groups and they'd have guests and you were putting it all together yourself and you're kind of in control. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's just been a really good way for us to do it. And now we have an online component, so we can have maybe, um, well, we haven't done it lately, but I think maybe during the pandemic or right after, we had like just an online sale, and we could have like a guest from far away, you know,
Oh, okay.
and we would just have a online sale. But usually we have a 1 day in-person sale, and then the following weekend, everybody opens up their online shops.
Oh, okay. It's just great to have a group of like friends you can talk about pottery with, and
I
just get
know.
together, have
Yeah,
coffee, kick ideas past each other. I just think that's a lot of fun.
it is good. It's good for all of us, I think. And we're all pretty well along the same path. We've all been making pots about the same amount of time, so
Yeah.
it's nice for all of us to sort of be together.
I just got invited to, excuse me, to be in a show called the Flower City Pottery Invitational
Yeah, I know about that.
up in Rochester next year, which is it's kind of it's wild to me because I used to go to that show,
Hmm.
you know. So to be finally like people like my pots, you
Yeah,
know,
it's cool. Yeah,
you're like, hey, sure, that's awesome, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it, you
I
know. So
know. Good. Yeah,
I'm
it's a good feeling to have that recognition from your peers or your heroes or
yeah,
whoever along the way. I mean, that's been huge for me. I mean, I've gotten, like we said earlier, I've just gotten so much help from people over the years. And now, I just try to, like you were saying, you had this person over to your studio, I just try to pass that on. I think that's one of the amazing things.
yeah, you know. And who was I talking to about the other day? Is about how how potters share,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it's really up to us to do that.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
it is
I learned
too.
by asking everybody things,
Yeah.
and I just go, "Hey, tell me how you do that," and they go, "Okay," you know.
I think over all the years that I've been asking people how to do things, I've had one person who very nicely, told me, I'm not ready to give that away right now.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like
fair enough.
fair enough, and that was cool and no big deal.
Yeah,
But I mean, I've got handwritten glaze recipes that folks have given me, and I've cold called people. Hey, is this
yeah, yeah.
back in the
And
day?
this may be weird to you,
I would
but
call somebody up.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, but now
I,
you get a DM or an Instagram message, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll tell you how to do that. Check this out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember many years ago there was a guy, I won't say his name. He was pretty well known for a really nice red glaze that he had, and it was on YouTube. He had a video up, and I sent a message to him back when I was learning, you know, and I said, "Hey, that's an amazing red. How do you do that?" You know, and he said something like years and years of
Yeah.
tribulations. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, I get it.
Yeah.
But he didn't say it in a very nice way. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so then on the next comment was John Britt,
Oh,
and John goes, "Oh, forget that guy. Here's my
here it
whole
is.
here's my whole glaze book."
Nice.
And he said, "Give me your email." And he sent me every glaze recipe he ever had.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
he's like, "Here, don't be silly." You know,
I know.
the kid's trying to learn. So
I know. Yeah. It's gonna take. Yeah. I mean, I could give it to you. He could have gave it to you, and it would have still taken you a couple years to figure it out.
well, that's exactly it, right? So my buddy Matt from Alaska, he's got this really great green glaze, and he also is a red clay guy. So I'm like, "Oh, dude, I love that." Of course, he said, "Oh, I'll send you the recipe." So he sent it to me, and I'm like, "Sweet," and then, make a couple of cups, dip, fire. Nope,
No. I know.
not even close.
I know. Right.
And I
Yeah.
still got a whole bucket full because I was so excited. And now I'm probably never going to use it because it doesn't work on my clay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. You say someone can give you the recipe, it still take you 10 years to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's all different. I mean, I think that's I've put pots in other people's kilns, and I've had other people put their pots in my kiln over the years, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, my pots look the way they do because I fire my kiln almost the same every time, and my kiln's not like anybody else's kiln exactly. And, you know, I could probably go to another studio and make the pots and put them in their kiln, and they'd be close, but, my kiln is just the way it is, and I think
And you know it. I
I
gotta let
know.
my cat out. He's bugging. Hold
I
on.
see that, yeah.
Big boy. One of them. That's Ronaldo. He's a
Nice.
good cat. I got another cat. I was telling Phil yesterday. I think he's 17 or 18 pounds.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
When he walks, his belly sways underneath him.
Yeah, my sister had a cat like that.
He's a good boy.
Its favorite thing to eat was American cheese.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, yeah, they'd
Oh,
give him
that's
American.
hilarious.
It was not a good idea. Poor thing. But she lived a long time. That cat did. Or he, I can't remember. But yeah.
So this is actually, I'm going to make this kind of like a little bit of ode to Phil Harlem
Nice.
through Terra Sidge.
Your and Phil's collaboration came out nice.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I wish we had another one to do. It's because with me, my decoration's mostly on bone dry stuff.
Uh-huh.
So when somebody sends me a bisque pot, it's like, yeah, I can do a couple things to it, but I wish I hadn't made the switch into this crazy floral thing yet. So
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. And I've got your pot here that I've got to decorate.
oh, that's gonna be fun.
I'm getting into my deco mode, so if
Oh,
I got to get warmed up so I don't mess it up. So,
oh, I hate that pressure. This better be good.
I know, man.
And like I said, I want to do another one with Phil because I don't think I did his great pot, justice. But who knows? His throwing is so good.
He's a good thrower. And he's got that glaze. He's got all his glaze stuff dialed in as
He
well.
really does. He's got that drip down pat,
Yep.
which we were talking about yesterday. I think what does he use? He just uses underglaze.
Yeah,
And then
maybe. I'm not sure what I know when we were in Sika, he bought some stains from that company that sells all the colors, the Mason stains or
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh gosh, I have a shelf full. I spent the day the other day going through that shelf right there. Just took it all off, and I mean, I had colors that were getting hard, and I'm probably not going to use,
Yeah.
all that crazy stuff. But let's see. So where do you sell most of your work? Are you like are you in galleries mostly, online?
Ever since ever since the pandemic, it's been primarily online. Up until that point, I did some craft shows, I did some galleries, and I would do my home sale twice a year. I knocked that down twice a year. But in 2020, everything, I lost all my shows and stuff. I mean, I didn't have that many. I'm not like out doing like a huge circuit. But
So did you say? Sorry, did you say wholesale or?
wholesale. Well, a little bit of, well, I don't know. It's all kind of
And
blended.
is that at your house or?
Oh, my home sale. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Home sale. That's my southern accent slurring on
Yeah, no.
my Cleveland County accent. Yeah, so I would have a home sale, like in the spring and in the fall. But nowadays, just about everything is sold online. And then I've got a few galleries, Schaller, Clay Acar,
Yep.
Charlie Cummings. They'll ask me to send some pots, which is nice. That is fairly recent. That's within the last 5 years. Those are all things that I was just always dying for that to happen. And finally, it happened, and I'm really grateful for that. And then we do our Thrown Together sale twice a year in Charlotte, and then I'll do like one or two other shows that I travel to during the year. There's one more in North Carolina, and but I've never traveled very far. I mean, really, I've just done shows around North Carolina and South Carolina.
My wife's sister is a painter, and she lives in Raleigh, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kristen Gibson.
Okay.
She does big floral, like palette knife paintings.
Oh,
They're
nice.
they're fantastic, and she's like one of those people that just goes, oh, slap, 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 slap.
Right on.
You're like, That's amazing.
I know.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I can't draw a stick figure.
Oh man, I tell people you can totally draw. You just have to sit down and not
Yeah.
and just kind of let yourself go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the online thing's been good. After the pandemic, when I wasn't able to have any sales here, I have a little showroom attached to my studio.
Yep.
I turned I turned half of my showroom into my new. I started playing drums again when I was a
Oh,
kid
sweet.
and a teenager. I was in some bands and played drums, and so during the
Nice.
pandemic, I started playing drums again. So I turned half of my showroom into my drum studio, and I turned another part of it into my shipping area. And so I've gotten like all my shipping supplies, everything, little office kind of set up in there, and then I've got some shelves where I put some pots.
Speaking of drums, I got. Do you know Chris Long?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He's going to be on the show on Tuesday.
Oh, good.
He's literally a rock star.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Like, and we met at Ensika in Richmond, and you
Oh,
know,
huh.
he had a shirt on for his band,
Oh, man.
Hikes. And I looked him up that night and went and saw him the next day. I'm like, dude, you really are a rock
I
star.
know he is. It's amazing. I didn't see him. I haven't ever met him in person. We've communicated a little bit online, so I need to make a note to reach out to him. Yeah,
He seems just like a sweet kid.
for
Like I
sure.
like, yeah. So I'm really excited to chat with him
For sure. Yeah, I'll have to. That'll be nice.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
and then I got Wednesdays Kevin Kowalski,
Oh yeah.
from L.A.
Yeah.
Right? He's a busy guy. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And then Friday is Wes Brown.
Oh,
Wes
nice.
makes
Yeah.
those big black teapots that are
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
He's teaching at Penn State. Very interesting guy. I saw him do a demo at Alfred.
Mm.
It's funny then. I had no thoughts of a podcast back then, but I remember sitting there thinking, God, I'd love to just chat with this dude.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
a smart, fun conversation.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking about doing, my wife and a few people told me yesterday, because I just been, and maybe you'll give me your thoughts on it. I just been dropping these things as I make them. So my buddy and my wife said I should drop one of these once a week, like one of these shows. You mean?
Yeah.
Rather than just popping them out there, I should be like, oh, next Friday will be this one. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think whatever's working for you, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's,
No,
you've kind of got it dialed in pretty quick, that I like this Riverside platform,
isn't this great?
Yeah, it's cool. I went in and signed up and played with it a little bit,
Yep.
on my own. Um, yeah, so I think, I mean, if it's easy to do, I would just keep doing it how you're doing it, or however it comes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep posting because it's fun
Yeah,
for me.
yeah,
And as soon as golf season starts, I'm gonna try to do one a week, but
yeah.
story of my life.
I hear you. Yeah,
You just get too busy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this Riverside is fun. This has its own editing platform.
I saw that. I'm going to play around with it at some point. I'd like to just get on here with one of my friends and just record and then go back and play
Yeah,
editing stuff.
it's great because like one of their like taglines is Zoom is not made for podcasts.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
made for meetings. But
True.
um,
Can you
on
have
it,
more, can you have more than one person on a meeting here on this Riverside?
I believe you can, and you can also go live and invite guests. But of course, that's the upgraded price. Right
It
now,
is.
it's like $30 a month, which is
Okay.
like, eh,
Yeah.
all right, whatever.
Cool.
I'm not making any money off this. I don't think I ever want to, but
Yeah.
maybe if somebody sponsors it, like Laguna Clay
I know.
or Speedball
There you go. Yeah.
or
Speedball's
Amico.
Yeah, Speedball's a North Carolina company. I didn't know that until like a few years ago. They're in
Oh, okay.
Statesville, North Carolina. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's wild.
But what this editing software has is, I don't know if you saw that when you were digging around, it has an AI editor.
Oh,
So, like, I can take this episode after I upload it later, and I can generate clips, and it'll ask me how long, and I do under 30 seconds,
cool. Yeah.
and it'll give me 15 clips of pieces of our conversation,
Nice.
and I could just throw them on Instagram and
Yeah, yeah.
bring people around. And
Yeah, that's cool.
also make it go in and take out odd pauses.
Yeah.
People that say it'll just take that out, which is me. All of a sudden, I'm not on this anymore. know where might go. He's over there saying,
Yep, yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's kind of
So let's
fun.
see. So a couple of last questions, real quick.
Yeah.
It's over an hour, and I'm sure you have lots to do.
Oh, great.
Um, what is your least favorite part of doing ceramics? Let's say that.
Gosh.
Is it
Well,
reclaim? Do you reclaim?
I kind of keep up with it as I go since I've got this pug mill. I kind of
Yeah,
keep up with it.
I
Probably
like
my
it.
probably my least favorite thing to do is wash buckets. I
Or
mean,
get two of them apart.
yeah. I mean, I hate. I mean, I just can't. I'm just so tired of dealing with buckets. And the other thing would probably be like dealing with the kiln shed and clean up around the kiln in the wintertime.
Sure, sure.
Summertime, I'm fine. I mean, I'm a summer boy. It could be 95 degrees and 100% humidity, and I'm just ready to go. You know.
You love it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right now, and it's 50. If it gets to be 50, which isn't cold, I know.
Yeah.
I've got my long johns on. You know, it's like- yeah.
See, I love that. I love your southern accent. I went to school down in Myrtle Beach, and
Oh my gosh.
I was playing golf with a boy from North Carolina.
Man,
Actually, his name was Junior.
we went to Myrtle Beach every year for vacation as a kid. Every
Did you?
year. Yeah.
Yeah, I love North Myrtle and South Myrtle. Not a
Yeah.
big fan of Middle Myrtle
We
anymore.
were we were all well when we were kids. I mean,
Yeah, the
that,
Grand
that
Strand was great.
yeah, the Grand Strand, the Pavilion. There was a little dance club. I can't remember the name of it. Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
teenager. It was fun. We
heck
had
yeah. Myrtle Beach was great. Now it's a little kind of, I guess, like everything, it's kind of overdone. But
for sure.
I was playing golf, a tournament with a guy named Junior, and he missed a putt, and he said, "Dadgummit."
That go.
And I looked over and I said, "I thought only cartoons said that.
That's great.
That's a real word."
Yeah, that's great.
Dadgummit. Okay, anything, you got any sales coming up? Anything you want to tell us about? Shows?
Well, hopefully I'll have an online sale in February. I got to get this kiln load of pots decorated, so you can keep your eye on my Instagram for
Sweet.
that, or Ron Philbeck Pottery. I'm going to try to get my calendar put up on my website soon. But thrown together, we'll be having our sale in March, April. I think it's April. I don't know. I should have printed out my calendar. But anyway, you can find me on Instagram, and I'll promote stuff there.
Sweet. We'll have to do a mug swap too. I got my whole kiln, my whole mug shelf. I got a guy built, and I don't have a Ron pot on
Oh
there.
yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Sweet.
Right
Well,
on.
we'll see how these flower ones come out. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll make you
man.
a floral one.
Sounds good.
And last but not least, you got to leave us with one good ceramic pottery tip.
Oh
What
man,
you got? There's a million of them.
there's a million of them. I think I don't know if this is really a tip, but maybe an encouragement. I tell
Perfect.
people this all. It's like work on your handles.
Yep.
You're going to make functional pots. You you got to work on your handles. I mean, that is my sort of mantra. Um,
Yep.
it takes as long to like really get your handles worked out as it does to throw or to learn to hand build like a nice
Yeah.
pot, whatever. And I don't know. Is that an okay tip? Work on.
Yes, that's perfect. You're the
Okay.
second person that said that, and
Oh, really?
yep. And I really try to do my handles. Here's a Bill Wilkie pot.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, great handle. Yeah.
Yes, it's lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
When I teach people handles, I say focus on this inner negative
That's
space,
right.
right?
That's
And
right.
to me, the handle is the most important part. I mean, besides the lip, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it is. It's
I
very
had a
important.
kid years ago. Actually, he's a buddy of mine, probably going to be on the show, and him and I swapped mugs. And this was back when I was still throwing and pulling handles, and we swapped a mug, and he was like, "You really got to work on your handles." And I was like, I'm still offended by that. It was 15 years ago, and I was like, darn it. And now I kind of like my handles now.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
listening to this was I was very surprised to hear this. I was listening to an old episode of an interview with Mark Shapiro,
Yep.
and he said in that interview, like really early on, he and Sam Taylor and Michael Klein were all together working together, and he said there was a handle intervention or something. Those guys got him, and they were like, "You got to work on your handles." And so I was like, "That's right. Work on this.
Those are good friends.
Those are your good friends. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, dude, we love you. Your pots are good. Your handles are killing it.
you got to work on those. Yeah,
You're killing your pots with bad handles. So, very good. I appreciate you very much. That was a lot of fun.
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to chat again. Hopefully at NCECA.
Yeah, yeah.
So appreciate you, everyone. Ron
Thanks so
Philbeck.
much.
I'll hit stop here and we can chat a little bit right afterwards. And
Okay.
very cool. See you,
Thanks.
buddy.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.